Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. I have got something something I really like on the table today, and it's a buck knife of all things. Now, I have been around knives my whole life. I have watched Buck. Well, Buck makes interesting knives. They make some fantastic fixed blades, but their folders, with the exception of the 110 and the 112 and some of the other varieties of that knife, have sort of stalled. They're still great, but not really competitive with today's market. And then they started doing stuff like this. This is the Buck HiLine. The model number is 0263. It is interesting. I mean, really interesting. So let's talk about what you get. Well, first, it's aluminum scales with a G10 overlay. The blade is D2. It is a hollow ground cleaver. And this has just been an absolute box-destroying tool for, I've had this for a month or so now. I just, other things going on, right? But because of that, it's just, I keep dropping it in my pocket. Like, for instance, recently we moved storage facilities. We had to move from one to another, which means I had to do a bunch of reboxing and repacking. And then when I got there, I had to do a bunch of unboxing and then breaking down those boxes. And I happened to have the HiLine on me that day. And this thing just destroyed the cardboard in that move. Would my other super expensive knives have done the same thing? Well, yeah. But the fact that this did it, and that this did it comfortably, and that I didn't find myself missing another knife or wishing I was carrying something else, speaks volumes. I hope Buck does a lot more stuff like this. Now, it is made in China. I know. Buck knives should be made in the U.S., but this is $37. 37 bucks for a hollow ground D2, right? Designed, I mean, he just shreds materials. I've cut all the things that I normally cut with this thing, for my testing, of course. Excuse me, there's a little bit of schmutz on the... Anyway, there we go. It's just been an absolute joy to use. It is running on bearings. It has a deep carry clip. Now, it is right hand, tip-up only carry, and I know some of my lefties out there are going to be really bummed out about that. I'm sorry, that's not up to me. That's what Buck chose to do. As I mentioned, it is a hollow ground cleaver, and I keep coming back to that because usually in a budget knife like this, and it is at $37, it is a budget-friendly knife, they don't do stuff like that. They just don't, particularly Buck. So here we are. I'm kind of a fan. I don't know if you can tell or not. When I bought this thing because I'd seen another couple of reviews, and I thought, well, we'll give it a shot. I was expecting nothing. And instead, I got a completely functional, cool-looking, well-made cutting tool from a company that I'd like to be able to support more often, in materials that are good. It's just right on Buck. Way to go. Let's do some size comparisons. It's not a big knife. It is not a big knife. Here it is against the full-size Griptilian. And as you can see, the HiLine is considerably smaller than that. Here it is against our old friend, the Bug Out. The HiLine and the Bug Out are very similar in size, right? You get a little more cutting area on the Bug Out, but different blade shape, slightly built for different kinds of work generally. This is a fun knife. It really is. Here's against the full-size Presidio 2, just in case you were curious. As I said, not a particularly big knife. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It does exactly what it's supposed to, and it does it well. It has a nice deep carry clip on it. I mean, really, really deep carry. It actually sticks up past the back end of the knife a little bit, which is a strange choice, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with a lot of things on here. The aluminum backspacer, which is milled for a little bit of style. The aluminum scales. All the hardware is anode out the same color as the aluminum backspacer. It's got a little bit of jimping right here for your thumb, but that's not where your hand lands. This is a knife you hold this way more often than not. And as a draw cut tool, again, this thing is just outrageous. It doesn't work really well on a cutting board because of the shape of it, right? But I want Buck to do so much more stuff like this. You can even use your pinky to flick the knife out with that little short fuller in the little hole. Now that's because cleavers have holes in the blade, I get that, and it's a nice aesthetic touch. The flipper tab is not jimped, but it works every single time. Let's see if I can flip it out. I think I can. Oh, you can, but it takes a ton of effort, which means the detent on this particular knife is done exceptionally well. Now, I do say this particular knife because one of the things that I've experienced with Buck knives in the last, decade is that their QC is not the best. So this particular version that I bought with my own money from a store has been fantastic. One of the issues is I can't promise you that you'll get one in exactly the same condition. That's a little bit of a bummer, but baby steps. We're going to take baby steps. I mentioned the action. The detent is really good, and it's very snappy on the open. There is so much going on with this knife that is good. It's really astonishing. And like I said, I looked this up just before I did the video today. These are about $37 and change. Can you get a little more knife for a little less money if you're willing to buy Sativian or one of the other sort of Amazon brands? Yeah, you can. Should you? That's up to you. Frankly, I feel like if Buck continues to do stuff like this, that's where I'll put my money, just because I love the company. As an old knife guy, and at this point, I am an old knife guy, I want to support them. Even though this knife is made overseas, I'm fine with that. You guys know I don't care about that at all. I know some of you do. That's why I keep bringing it up. I don't want you to see the Buck name and think made in the USA. But still, the money stays here, right? So let's get the basic specs out of the way. You get 2.75 inches of cutting on what looks like 3.5 inches of D2 steel. The grip area from behind the swell, behind the flipper tab, which is nicely buried in the scales, by the way, is 1, 2, 3, and 1/8. But this forward choil brings that up to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1/8. So my hand's a little big for the tail end of the knife, but if I come forward, I got plenty of room, right? The knife overall from end to end comes in at 7.5. Yeah, 7.5 inches, which is not bad. It has a very nice, even for a big cleaver, right? It is a fairly wide cleaver. But the closed profile on this thing, you're looking at just about 1.25 inches at its widest spot. The flipper tab does stick out a little bit, but it is unobtrusive, and everything is chamfered really well. It's not going to tear up anything in your pocket. I think if you're interested in this style of knife, I think this is a great option. I really do. And it's been a while since I've said that about a Buck knife, but here we are. In short, well, let's weigh it. That's something we do on the channel. I mean, it is. It feels a little hefty. Let's see. Yeah, 3.9 ounces for a 3.5 inch blade, but the aluminum scales are not milled. The backspacer is reasonably thick, but in the end, what that gives you is a really positive feel in the hand. It feels substantial. It feels good when you hold on to it. I'm really happy for them. I'm happy for me because I've got one. Now, you guys know I've got a ridiculous knife collection, so what am I going to do with this? Well, this will go probably into my car, into the glove box. This is an ideal glove box knife, right? Durable, reliable, well-made, slicey as heck. I got to tell you, the D2, wherever that's coming from in this case, has held the edge phenomenally well. Like I said, I probably went through 20 feet of cardboard with this thing the other day, and it is still hair-popping sharp. So whatever they're doing at their end, they are doing it right. And that's where we're going to wrap it up. This is the Buck HiLine, an exceptionally good, budget-friendly knife from Buck in an interesting style out of good materials, and what I hope is the beginning of a whole new sort of lean-in from Buck knives. I'd love a drop point version of this. I'd love a Tanto. I'd love a clip point. I'd love whatever else they want to do, as long as they do it with this sort of eye towards build quality, materials, and overall fit, finish, and feel. And that's where we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. I have been a Therapeutic Edge. This has been the Buck HiLine. There'll be a link to where you can find one of these down in the description. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you next time.